Welcome to The Truth About Real Estate. I'm Erin Blaze, and today we're going to talk about some housing programs that are unique to Columbia. Today my guests are Tim Teddy from the City of Columbia and Skip Jenkins from Job Point. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Tim, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the homeownership assistance available to people in the City of Columbia.
Sure. Homeownership's an important topic, by the way. We're here in the middle of Homeownership Month, and I'd like to let your viewers know about a special event June 30th at the Memorial Union to celebrate the end of Homeownership Month. The Mayor Hyman will make a special appearance, and a number of our housing organizations will be there to present some of their fine programs. But with that being said, let me tell you a little bit about the city's homeownership assistance program. It's something that the city's been offering since the early 1990s. We had outsourced it to Economic Development Corporation, and since April of 2007, the City Department of Planning has been running the program. It's down payment assistance designed for the first-time home buyer, and it will offer up to $4,000 on a down payment and closing costs to qualified buyers who are seeking their first home within what we call the eligibility area, which are the census tracts in the city that are a majority of households lower than the median income. And the program generally has been running about 24 to 40 assisted purchases a year. If anyone is interested, they can contact our department at planning, www.gocolumbia.mo.com/planning, and we have some information available on the program. It's an application process. We do income verifications. We require home inspection, lead testing if the home is older than 1978. And I think it's generally worked very well in getting people in their first homes. It's leveraged a lot of private mortgage investment. I think it's been very successful, I think, in bringing home ownership to neighborhoods that maybe have a relatively low rate of home ownership. So I'd like to see realtors and lenders inquire about the program. We have a lot of interest in it, and we do workshops with the local real estate and lending community at least once a year. And I think it's a very nice program. We have a number of other housing programs that address other needs, but this one's targeted specifically at home ownership.
Okay, I've got a few questions.
Sure.
Do you have to be a first-time home buyer to use the program?
You do, with the qualification that there are some situations that will qualify. A so-called displaced homemaker can qualify. That might be an individual who lost a spouse, either to death or divorce. Anyone who has not owned a home in the last 3 years might qualify as well as a first-time home buyer. A child who's been living with their parents in a home ownership situation and is leaving the nest, as it were, could also qualify as a first-time home buyer. Will require some documentation that they were not the owner of the home that they moved from, that kind of thing. But there are some exceptions. Generally, it's for first time.
What about the income limits? How are the income limits set for assistance?
There are income limits. To qualify, a person or household needs to be earning 80% or less than the median income for the area. What that means in dollars and cents is a family of four, just under $50,000 is the HUD specified income limit for that 80% mark. A single person, it would be 34,700, I think, is the number, and then there's gradations in between for different size households.
Okay. And how do you decide, you mentioned that you have an area where the assistance is available. Is that set by incomes per the census tract, or is it set by some other measure?
It's done by census tract data, and it's an area that's about 18 square miles in the city. Didn't bring my map with me, but if you think of generally a swath between I-70 and Broadway, running east-west, running west from US 63 to just about the city limits on the west side. That's one corridor, and then there's a southern corridor that's centered on Rock Quarry Road down to the south, just about down to the south city limits, I believe. And then there's another band of territory that's centered on Paris Road, running northeasterly from the central city. That's the so-called block grant eligibility area, and for this particular program, that is the eligibility area for homeownership assistance. We have other programs that are citywide.
Okay, and can you be a city employee and use the program?
You can. We do have assistance for city employees that have had a certain minimum tenure with the city, so that might be another option that a city employee would want. We have 1,200 employees. I have no idea how many of them actually live in the city limits or in the eligibility area, but I think a good number of them would probably qualify for one of our programs.
Okay, and you mentioned the inspections. Once the home buyer puts their house under contract and gets a private inspection, then there's a city inspector who comes. Could you tell me what the city inspector is looking for?
It's mainly property maintenance. The federal rules that underlie the Home Investment Partnerships Program, which is the block grant, which is the source of these funds, require that houses be brought up to standard condition. So I'd offer a little caveat that handyman specials aren't going to work out very well without some effort. The city inspector will be looking for compliance with the property maintenance code, mainly if the house was built before January 1st, 1978. It does have to be tested for lead and mitigated if necessary.
Okay.
So that's another.
All right, I was
thing
wondering how it works. So in order for the money to be used, it has to set those, it has to meet the code guidelines.
That's right. And yeah, so, you know, no hanging gutters, no sagging stairs, that kind of thing. We'll make sure that it's brought up to city code. There'll be a compliance certificate that's issued as part of the process.
I was puzzled by that because as a realtor, everyone wants to get the grant,
Yeah.
but then they go out and find a house. Many of the homes in the area are older homes.
Right.
And many won't be up to code. So then they're surprised.
Right. And
it doesn't pass the inspection.
Yeah, and my staff tell me that that's something we're going to have to act on. I think probably a good idea to meet with Board of Realtors membership and the lenders again to just talk about the requirements to try to smooth the process a little bit, because I know that sometimes applicants can be taken aback by a requirement that a house has to be repaired.
Right, and of course then those requirements can't be waived in any way.
Yeah, like I say, it's the source of the funding is the Home Investment Partnerships Program. It's traditionally a paper-heavy kind of program. That's the downside of this. I think it's a really excellent resource, but yeah, we do have to make sure that the housing quality standards are followed.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
Skip, could you tell us a little bit about the Youth Builds program?
Yes. Aaron, thank you for asking me to be on the program.
Sure.
I've been looking forward to it several days. I'd like to talk about three things. Certainly one of it is the Columbia Builds HUD Youth Build program. And I'll talk about that for a moment, and then how that Youth Build program is part of Job Point's affordable housing development program, where we actually are the owner-developer of single-family homes. And the single-family homes that we develop, we've just finished one on 6 Forest Avenue, and I want to finish up talking about that. The HUD Youth Built program was awarded to Job Point, I believe, in the year 2000. And in the year 2000, I had developed an affordable housing program for a community action agency. And when I was with the community action agency, we were partners with Job Point in that I was already developing affordable housing in the NRT area. That's that geographical area you were explaining. And in the program that I developed and, with the Community Action Agency, and then when I went to work for Job Point 3 years ago, we incorporated the same ideas, and that is to apply for city funding that the city receives HUD Home Partnership Act funds, and there's a qualification for a certain percentage of those home funds that the city get. They're required to set aside 15% of the actual amount that they receive to be for housing development by certified community housing development organizations. For many years, the Community Action Agency was the only called CHODO, Community Housing Development Organization. So typically they would get anywhere from $80,000 to $90,000 a year that they would spend on affordable housing. And I remember back in the year 2000, we had about $171,000 of 2 years accumulated, and I developed a program where we built 2 houses out in Garden City subdivision, 2 single-family homes. One sold for 101, 103, and by utilizing some of that grant money, and this is what Job Point does in the homes that they do. They competitively apply for this same CHODO grant money, and a portion of that, and can be as much as 20% of the purchase price on the home, can be in the form of a down payment assistance. You know, we had Tim just talk about the I think $35,000 or $4,000 down payment assistance that is available. Well, in the homes that Job Point develops, we have similar HUD money that can, like I said, provide an additional up to 20% of the purchase price on the home. The HUD Youth Built program, when I was with the Community Action Agency, they built 3 homes that I was already planning on building, and it was a natural. We were already recruiting, and they still recruit. Job Point does. They recruit youth between the ages of 16 and 24 that are, by program design, 90% of them are at-risk dropouts and have no working skills. So they were already recruiting for the job training and construction trades within the same First Ward area that I was building these homes for. So we partnered together, and those homes are occupied now. And some of the program about HUD Youth Built, why these when these youth get recruited by Job Point, we have them for about a 9-month program, and during that 9 months, one day they're on a job site, whether it be with the Community Action Agency, we build houses for them, or the homes that we build, or I believe right now we're building a house for Habitat, and through the last 8 years, Job Point's probably with the Youth Built program participated in at least 10 or more Habitat homes and completed at least 3, and soon to complete this other one. But one day they're on the job site, and the next day they're in the GED class. Well, you know, that's not their favorite part of the whole program, but I like to say that's a carrot that gets them interested. The building trades part that they get paid a wage for, that's the carrot that they like that. And that's the carrot that gets them back in the school part of it to get their GED. So at the end of 9 months, they've learned construction skills from pouring flat work, sidewalks, driveways, foundation, to the students learn the framing, the roofing, the sheeting, setting the windows, everything but the mechanicals like heating and air conditioning. And interesting enough, the homes we build, also the electrical is all done by the Columbia Career Center, their electrical program. Their students do the wiring, and but all the other mechanical parts are done by licensed contractors that I take bids on. And during that 9 months, they learn, of course, they learn the GED and the construction skills, and they also learn leadership develop leadership skills, and it's a real win-win situation. Here we are building affordable homes with a down payment, which is the biggest obstacle to first home buyers. We're building in an area where you don't see a lot of new homes being built, and they're being built by the youth from the area that are at risk. And I remember years ago in 2000, the 2 homes that we built up in Garden City, one of the 2 were vandalized. And the 4 homes that I've been involved in building with the Youth Built program in the First Ward, they don't get vandalized. That's interesting, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the youth saying, "Don't mess with that." That's our, that's our program. Yeah. So that's a little bit about Columbia Builds Youth and how that Job Point has taken that and not only continued building homes for the not-for-profit partners, but has now become the owner-developer of some of their own homes. And I wanted to mention briefly that the house that we just recently completed, the address is 6 Forest Avenue. It's Forest runs east and west between North Garth and North Providence. And this home is on the market. I've been showing it. I've already got several prospects that I think they're going to mortgage broker as we speak to see if they can qualify. Our total development costs on that, for instance, the lot costs $17,000 and $3,000 for the excavation. So lot costs are even in the First Ward are expensive. It's about $20,000 now. And I remember back in 2000 I was buying them for $12,000 and $14,000. But counting that much for the lot and the development costs for the lumber and all the other components of the house, our development cost was $110,000. Well, a first home buyer that is making a family income of 80% or less of the median income that Tim had mentioned was one of the HUD guidelines for this down payment assistance. You can't really end up with a $658 a month payment on a $110,000 house unless there's some gap financing in there, and that's where, by program design, we've got up to $22,000 worth of down payment assistance available, so that this house here will be marketed at $110,000, but the buyer will only have to go get an $88,000 mortgage, and the principal, interest, tax, and insurance, the monthly payment would be $658. That opens up the doors for a lot of first home buyers. The 80% of the median income for a family of 3 is $44,650. So that's not real low income. You know, take $44,650. That's about $3,800 a month. You know, the city employees. There's a lot of people in Columbia paying $650 a month rent for an apartment house or mobile home, so they can already through these affordable housing development programs, they can become a homeowner if they had the down payment. So that's why we've developed this program that comes to play. On this particular house, we also partied with the city water and light company for technical assistance, so that this house was constructed in such a manner and utilizing energy-saving, high-efficiency furnace and air conditioning. This house has been rated as a Energy Star home with a 5-star rating, which is the highest that you can see. Because the part of this whole thing of affordable housing, if you can make it affordable on the payment side and the purchase side, you sure want to be able to make it affordable to live in. And there's a lot of older homes that you can buy for $650 that have deferred maintenance issues, and they certainly don't have the energy conservation, and makes it, is it really affordable, even though the payment can be handled. This house also has a few construction designs called universal designs. Universal designs is a concept where you build a house to accommodate persons with disabilities. This house does not have any stairways going to the front door. A person with a handicap that requires wheelchair, there's no steps to go into the house, and all the doors are 3 foot wide. and the electrical switches and the plugs are at a design that is generally recognized as easily accessible to people with disabilities. So this house is this is the first one Job Point has been the owner developer on Columbia, and we're real proud of the not only the house but some of the things that we've incorporated in like Energy Star features and universal design features. The 3 bedrooms all 3 bedrooms are large and have walk-in closets. We're just tickled to death to show this house, and I'd invite anybody that wants to know more about it to call me. My phone number at Job Point, my job at Job Point is Housing Development Coordinator. I've been in the arena of affordable housing development since 1979-80, so that pegs me at about over 60. But my phone number at Job Point is 777-1586. And if one of the listeners want to know more about Job Point Youth Build Program, I'd invite them to call, and I'll put them in touch with the recruiters in that program for any interested youth that want to come into that program. If it's a contractor that wants to be on my bid list for the mechanicals, I'd invite their phone calls. And of course, while I've got this house for sale, like I said, I've got 3 people going to mortgage brokers now, but to see if they qualify for the loan. But I need to market this house and get on with the next one. And if there's anybody listening that has a lot for sale, I'm authorized by the CHOTA board and have the money in hand to buy another lot. And I'd like to buy that within the next 30 days and start another house to have it under roof before winter. And let's see. Tim said something about the city's involvement in celebrating June as National Home Ownership Month, and the event that Job Point as well as the other community housing development organizations are going to be attending that. Job Point has just had a news release. We're particularly proud to celebrate June as National Home Ownership Month in the development and sale of one of the homes we did up in Wellsville. And you know, it's my opinion, but I haven't memorized it, but home ownership has always been and still is today recognized as the American dream. And home ownership provides tremendous social and economic benefits to our society. It strengthens our economy and builds communities, and to the individual family represents a powerful tool for economic stability and self-esteem. In short, owning a home gives people a reason to care about what goes around them and allows them to be a stakeholder in the community they live in. And we at Job Point feel strongly in the First Ward being a community that we can develop stakeholders in the community and also develop the youth of the community with job skills and educational skills so that they can continue successfully with their life endeavors.
Wonderful. Okay.
Thank you, Erin.
Sure. I had a couple questions about the down payment assistance on that home and other homes that you build. Is, just so people know, is that something you have to pay back, or is it like a grant?
I'm glad you asked that question. For instance, talking figures, let's say this house at 110. If the person has some savings of their own to put down, we'd like to have them, along with our down payment assistance, if it had to be $22,000, that is grant money that we used as first dollars to buy that lot, you know, the lot in the, and we put the grant money in there. Mm-hmm. So at closing, if the person had their down payment and the mortgage money, then we would walk with all that money, all right? Well, that money is also not only for the development homes, but it can be used as down payment assistance. So if at closing the buyer, we can offer to loan that money back to them. So at closing, we enter into a promissory note with the buyer to Job Point for, let's say, $22,000 at 0 interest, and we secure that note with a second mortgage behind the mortgage company's first mortgage. So they don't have to pay it back. It forgives at 10% a year. So if they live there 10 years, that's fully forgiven. If they sold then, they would walk with that as equity. But if they sold in 5 years, then 11,000 of that would have to come from the proceeds of the sale that they're entering into and then that 11,000 would come back to Job Point and then be put back into the dollars necessary for development of more affordable housing. So in short, it's grant money in a promissory note, 0 interest, forgivable over a period of time, 10 years.
Okay, great. All right. And I had another question about the youth build. Can anyone have a house built by Youth Build, or is it just certain, you mentioned Habitat, are there just certain places that they build?
The youth have only built for not-for-profit corporations like Habitat and the local community action agency. I don't know that they can build for a single, let's say an individual buys a lot and says, can you build me a house?
Mm-hmm.
That would, and the reason I don't know that is the criteria for what the Youth Built can do and not do, that grant was applied for it, and the Youth Built director is my boss, Gary Taylor. Mm-hmm. So if I can get back with you an answer on that, I'll ask Gary. I think but program design, the Youth Built have to be involved with not-for-profit corporations.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good enough. And we're just about out of time. This is Erin Blaze from The Truth About Real Estate. If there's a topic you'd like to have me cover on my show, please email me at thetruthaboutrealestate@gmail.com. And that's it for today. Thanks.